ESPN 94.9, The Fan.
30 years of the best sports talk in Middle Tennessee. It's the George Plaster Show, featuring Tennessee Sports Hall of Famers Kelly Holcomb and young gun Willy Daunic. And now, here's your host, George Plaster.
Hello again, everybody. Welcome in. It is, you know what? It's a summer Monday. It feels like summer is here, period. I like that. I love it. Bring it on.
It's too hot already.
They don't feel like the world champs right now, do they?
No, they don't.
No. Let's find out how everybody's weekend was. Let's check in first with Kelly Holcomb, who joins us from his palatial mansion in Murfreesboro. Kelly, how are you?
How do you know it's a palatial mansion, George? You've never been here.
Former NFL quarterback, got a lot of money. Got more money than you know what to do with.
I missed that. I missed that big payday where backup for getting $7 million. I mean, I was like 3 years early for that. You know what I'm saying? So
if you'd played until you were 40, well, okay, how old were you your last year?
I was 34. I was about to be 35. I could have kept playing too. That was the thing about it. I could have had a couple more years. I got to kind of, as you always say, cynical when people would call me and they'd want me to work out. I said, you got 13 years of tape. Find it. I'm not coming to work out. You either want me or you don't. So that probably didn't turn out too well.
What team might you have given that speech to?
I had an opportunity. I could have won a Super Bowl with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I would have been. It was the year that Charlie Batch got hurt, and they wanted me to come up and work out. And it was when my son was a baby, and not a baby, but he was young. And it was really funny because I think I've told you this story before, but the guy, I even forget who it was. I don't even know, but he was a player personnel director or something like that. But he called me and he said, we're wanting to fly you up tomorrow. I don't know if you saw the game. Charlie Batch got hurt. And I said, well, that's all good, man. I don't mind coming up, but I'm not coming tomorrow. My son's birthday is tomorrow. So I'm not flying up. So there was like an awkward 15 seconds of silence. And then he goes, okay, I'll get back with you. And do you think they ever got back with me? No.
No. I think at the end, you may have been labeled attitude problem.
You're probably correct, George, because when you ask me a question and I tell you what I think and the truth, and you don't like it, don't get upset. You ask me the question.
Okay. You had a nice weekend?
I did have a nice weekend. I did. My son left, which kind of sucked, but yeah, he went back to Valdosta. But yeah, it was a good weekend.
So I'm guessing this is the beginning of summer stuff.
Oh yeah, I'm beginning summer stuff. All right, in 20 days, I've got a.
No, I mean him.
Oh, him. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. He is beginning summer stuff, but I'm beginning summer stuff at the house too. And I've been washing porches today. I've got 20 days until a wedding at my house.
Oh, wow.
At your house?
At my house. Yeah, I've already had one here at my house years ago, and with my oldest daughter, but my middle daughter, who's getting married to Will Pruitt, it is June the 21st at my house. So I've got to get this place tip-top shape.
Damn right. Let's get on with it.
That's right. That's what my wife's saying too.
I'm going to ask you a question that if this is too sensitive, feel free to just say I'm not answering it. In general, do college kids need to be back on campus around June 1st when football season's not until late August? Because if I remember correctly, it wasn't always this way.
No, it was not.
There's a part of me that says glorified babysitting.
Yeah,
now, if you don't want to answer it, that's fine.
Well, I mean, I'm free to answer it. I'm okay to answer it. I can remember when you're right, because when I played, everybody in the middle of summer about this time, it's probably more towards July. But we would have to meet with Doc Crease. You remember Doc Crease, the former
Knew him
strength coach
well.
at Vandy?
Yep.
We would have to meet up at Murfreesboro, and we would have to do a 110 test, and then we'd have to run a couple of miles around the campus, which I did not like. But that's what we had to do for summer. Now, guys would stay for the summer and work out, but it wasn't like it is now. But I will say this: now that these young men are getting paid like this, get them to doing something. Make them earn it.
Clock in.
Clock in. I agree.
Yeah.
I think so. It's a year-round deal for kids nowadays. It was a year-round deal for NFL players, and now it's a year-round deal for college kids. So, yeah, I mean, if you want to have a good program, you have to do that because everybody else is doing it.
Hello, William.
Hello, George.
What's the problem?
It's a tough weekend over at the Hawk.
Hmm.
Vandy made the wrong kind of history.
Ooh, you think?
But so did Texas. I mean, this has been, and I was talking about it with Tony over the weekend, this has probably been the most volatile college tournament. If you compare March Madness, college this it's probably been the most volatile, definitely in my life. I've never seen anything like it. And typically you have upsets in college baseball, especially in the opening regional weekend. But for number 1 and number 2 to go down,
pretty shocking. So today we will find out a little more about Louisville baseball. Their play-by-play voice will join us at 3:20. We'll talk about Vandy's just total collapse. I mean, you can call it whatever you want, but it's a total collapse that had them out before last night. Willy Daunic will join us at 4:00. And then I'm going to get into beat writer versus coach, because I think I've got maybe some perspectives on it that, having watched this little dance for 50 years or however long I've been in this, beat writer versus coach is a really interesting deal.
Yeah, there's a lot to get into there.
Oh, there is.
With that.
There's a lot.
There was a lot of coaching headlines over the weekend in college baseball that we'll be talking about as well. But
would that lead your update?
It would lead the update. The update brought to you by X Golf, the experience, the premier experience of golf, the future of golf, the world's most accurate simulator. Book a tee time at playxgolf.com. Fuel your game with a restaurant and bar. Toast a good game with beer by the glass or on tap, cocktails and wines. To eat, shareable bites, delicious appetizers, snacks, pizzas, and more. The grand opening for a second store next Friday. Is that this Friday?
Yes.
This Friday.
Yes.
In Franklin at 209 South Royal Oaks. We'll broadcast our show there. Love to see you there. So college baseball obviously over the weekend has been nuts. With Texas and Vandy out, this is just the second time since national seeds were introduced in 1999 that the top 2 seeds were both eliminated in regionals. 2014 was the other, when Vanderbilt won their first national title.
Do you remember who got eliminated?
I don't remember who.
Yeah.
But it was number 1 and 2 seeds that year as well. And I mean, for that tournament to produce the way it did over the weekend, I don't know that anybody expected that. I mean, you know you're going to have upsets, but to the level you had it is ridiculous. But talked about coaches. We're going to get into Tim Corbin on Saturday night, what he had to say. You had Duke head coach Chris Pollard rant about the helmet. They don't, in the NCAA, one of the rules is you can't have home run props. And Duke hit a home run. They have a construction helmet, white construction helmet that they put on the guy that just hit the home run. And apparently one of their players walked out of the dugout with the helmet in his hand, and he got suspended for the next game.
Oh, so silly. First of all,
Duke is already in the super regional round,
right?
But Pollard was just ripping that.
This is the kind of thing that has people hating on the NCAA.
That's what he said.
No fun league.
Obviously, we know about what Tim Corbin said. We'll talk about that one. But another coach in the headline was Kevin O'Sullivan. He went on a tirade after site representatives at the Conway Regional moved Florida's elimination game back by an hour. The head coach
When
O'Sullivan.
you say back, you mean starting an hour later or starting an hour earlier?
An hour later. So they moved since site staff moved the elimination game, Sunday's elimination game, which Florida lost 11-4, back an hour because East Carolina played late into the night prior. The Pirates did not wrap up their Saturday night game until around midnight. The elimination game was originally set for noon, but got pushed back to 1 o'clock. And O'Sullivan was obviously expecting to have an advantage in that game time-wise with ECU, but they pushed it back. So O'Sullivan said, what transpired this morning on our field, another coach disrespected our associate AD who works as hard as anybody in our entire program. This is actually Schnall from on O'Sullivan, and that is the Coastal Carolina representative. He said he disrespected our field crew, who are the salt of the earth. These guys would do anything for our program. It's not okay, and this needs to be brought up. Absolutely disrespectful.
Wow.
So Kevin O'Sullivan in the news. Also, Women's College World Series. The Lady Vols run.
Oh, wait, hold on a second. There was a coaching move that happened late last night.
What was that coaching move?
The Virginia coach, who has won national titles, has
you're right.
accepted the Mississippi State
Well,
job.
I already mentioned that a week ago.
No, you didn't. It just got announced yesterday.
I said he's expected to take the job.
Oh, did you do that on this show?
Yeah, I brought that. That was rumored about a week ago.
Okay, I guess
I don't remember that, Billy. Is that on this show or one of your mini shows?
That was on this show. George is.
I think you're getting your other shows confused, Billy.
I mean, I don't know what other shows you're talking about.
I don't remember it either.
Hey, you're just trying to get the grind going, aren't you, big dog? You're grinding.
Is it possible that maybe you didn't?
Is it possible you don't remember?
Oh, at this age,
it's very much possible. I don't remember. I'm sure about that. I don't remember what I did 5 minutes ago.
Anyway, this one has sent shockwaves in the college circles because, to me, what it says is, first of all, any of you ever been to Charlottesville, which is a beautiful area? They've won national titles, and you're moving to Starkville. Nothing against Starkville.
Hold on. But Mississippi State's one of the best programs in the country.
So is Virginia.
Yeah,
Virginia can go toe-to-toe with.
But Mississippi State and their facilities, and they've won a national title as well.
And Virginia's facilities have not been a barrier to winning a national title.
Yeah, but you're moving to the SEC.
Look, to me, this screams of he figured out that the NIL money wasn't going to be there. Doesn't it?
Mississippi State's a heck of a program and a great job to take.
Is it going to be better at Mississippi State though, George?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah. And Billy, have you been to Starkville before?
I haven't, but have you been to their stadium? I mean,
yeah, I've done games.
I've been to Starkville.
Not this one. Have you seen their new facility?
Well, okay. You're saying add on.
It's a AAA minor league park.
It is. No question, it is. It's really nice.
And the fact that they've struggled as much as they have is mind-boggling the last 3 years.
Okay, but is it sort of me thinking that something at Virginia, this guy's been there for over 20 years, something at Virginia must not have been right or he wouldn't have left?
That's fair.
Yes?
Yeah, that's fair. I don't know if it was NIL, but it's also...
It's a hell of a hire for Mississippi State.
Yeah. Yeah. So Brian O'Connor leaving Virginia, headed to Mississippi State. That is a huge move. Mentioned that about a week ago, but it is official.
You say you did.
It is
nobody
official
remembers
now.
Do the interns remember it?
The interns were not.
Nobody's-
Yes. Eli says yes.
He doesn't remember what he had for lunch today. Don't worry about Eli.
And,
Wow. What did he do to deserve that?
He
in
didn't do
the
anything. Just being associated with us.
Next time we ask for your help, always agree with the director.
in the women's College World Series, the Lady Vols run ended in the semifinal today in a 1-0 loss to Texas. Tennessee pitched their ace Carlin Pickens 6 innings today after she threw 9 innings against UCLA yesterday. I mean, that's in baseball terms, you don't do that. But in softball, I don't know if there's
In
a difference.
softball, I think you can
Different.
throw until
Yeah.
your arm falls off.
No,
You
I'm,
can.
I'm not talking about pitch count though. I'm just talking. You pitch 9 innings the day before, and then you go pitch 6. Is that normal in softball?
I don't know.
I think it is, man. I think you pitch your ace because it's not over. It's not a. Yes, it's just. I think it is.
Okay.
I think they do that quite a bit.
And also, Tennessee's hitting coach, Craig Snyder, was ejected from the game in the 4th inning after he left the dugout. He appeared to be yelling toward the Texas dugout, but it was unclear what he was upset about.
He may have been saying, hook 'em horns.
I'm sure that's what it was. Also, in the NFL, Deion Sanders back in the news a little bit. He said he was hurt by reports that said his son Shador Sanders was unprepared during pre-draft meetings with NFL teams, but he also isn't buying the validity of them either. Shador Sanders, who had been widely accepted to be a first-round pick, of course, fell all the way to the 5th round before being taken by the Browns. Shiloh Sanders, Deion's other son, available to be drafted, wasn't taken at all, but he signed with the Buccaneers, and Deion said it did hurt. But the Bible says God uses the foolish things to confound the wise. There was some foolish stuff that went on, but that gave them something that they needed.
Okay, speaking of foolish, I think it was foolish of Deion to put it out there at one point that there were certain teams that he didn't want Shador to play for.
Yeah.
So, if we're going to play the foolish card, let's be truthful here. A lot of teams didn't want to deal with Deion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The circus coming to town.
Yeah.
But you think he would really? You think it would really be a circus, George, or would he let those guys alone?
I don't know. I mean, I would hope that it wouldn't. But don't you think that was a fear?
Oh, absolutely. There's no question that came into question in all of those evaluating meetings. There's no question that
Billy,
happened.
In your award-winning update, did the score of the North Carolina-Oklahoma game come up?
Oh, it did not. We've got an extended score. North Carolina leads Oklahoma 7-2 in the top of the 4th. Winner to the Super Regional.
We're done?
I was going to get to one other's story. Lions 4-time Pro Bowl center Frank Ragnow announced that he is retiring. He said, "This past couple of months have been very trying as I've come to the realization that my football journey is ending and I'm officially retiring from the NFL."
Want to thank listener Don Walker, who says Oregon State and Florida were the teams eliminated in 2014.
There you go.
Okay. After the break, we will meet up with Louisville play-by-play voice Sean Moth. He's been in Nashville over the weekend as his Cardinals advance to the Super Regional, likely to play down in Hattiesburg against Southern Miss, but the University of Miami might have a little something to say about it. So stick around. We got a lot coming on what should be an interesting show on 94.9 The Fan.
When I got my first car, my dad told me, keep the gas tank full and my number on speed dial. Now parents are telling their kids, save 615-242-9000 just in case. I'm Blair Durham, If you or someone you love is in a wreck, call us. We're here to get you the money you deserve.
It's easy to say good things about the folks at Strike and Spare Family Fun Centers. Number one, I trust them with something that's near and dear to me, the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. But more importantly, I see the fun people have. They enjoy the bowling, they enjoy the camaraderie, and you will too. Come by any of their locations and get ready to have some fun.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
At Wilson Bank and Trust, we believe you shouldn't have to choose between personal service and digital solutions. As your local independent bank, we're proud to offer the relationships and trusted service you expect, along with the tools and technology that keep you moving forward. So whether you're growing a business, buying a home, or planning for the future, we're here to help. Because this isn't just where we work, it's where we live too. Wilson Bank and Trust, here to get you there. Member FDIC.
This is my buddy Stan Harrison from Apple Collision Centers. Recently, you've been talking to me about companies that have a fleet of trucks and they're always in need of repairs.
That's right, George. We understand that nobody likes to deal with the auto body repair process. We try to simplify that at our 3 convenient locations. We work with all major insurance companies. We help to ease the stress of the auto body repair process. We're located in Old Hickory, Hendersonville, and Gallatin. If you need our services, please stop by and see us.
And how convenient that we have that in the background. Now, seriously, these are good folks. They do really good work. Give them a holler.
We help to ease the stress of the auto body repair process. We're located in Old Hickory, Hendersonville, and Gallatin. If you need our services, please stop by and see us.
And how convenient that we have that in the background. Now, seriously, these are good folks. They do really good work. Give them a holler.
Can't watch the race? We got you.
I can't believe it.
NASCAR lives on the Game Nashville Sports Network. Whether it's 102.5 The Game, 94.9 The Fan, or Sports Talk 830, you can hear it all. Just check theGameNashville.com for the full schedule. NASCAR lives here. Your sports live here on the Game Nashville Sports Network.
It's the George Plaster Show.
Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan.
We are back. Louisville advances out of the Nashville Regional, and tonight they're going to pay very close attention to Southern Miss and Miami, because if Miami wins, suddenly Louisville is a home team. So you bet your sweet you-know-what that Cardinal Nation will be rooting on the University of Miami. With that in mind, the baseball play-by-play voice of the Cardinals joins us. Sean Moth is back up in Louisville. Sean, congratulations.
George, thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks for having me.
So how shocked was that group as they're trying to analyze, okay, are we going to play Vandy at 8 o'clock or are we going to play Wright State? They had to be shocked when early on it becomes obvious it might be Wright State.
Yeah, there's no question there was a lot of watching early. Ironically, the team went into a hitters meeting at about 4:15 and continued into a chapel and a team meeting to a point where the team didn't know who they were going to play until they got out of the meeting and they went to the ballpark. And so there was it was kind of a let's just worry about our business. And when we get to the ballpark, we'll either face a team we haven't faced before or we'll be back again with Vanderbilt. So the timing of it was rather unique, especially with the proximity of us staying at the Marriott right down around the corner from the stadium. But we knew Wright State was a really good team. We knew that they gave Vanderbilt some troubles in the opening game, but there definitely was a bit of surprise. And I don't know that I want to say relief, but I mean, if I say there wasn't, I think I'd be lying because it's the number one overall seed at their home field. And so, is it a little easier route potentially having to play Wright State? Yeah, but I went over on my own. The team was on their own, and I think it was a very business-like approach to the weekend. But the timing was definitely ironic.
You know well that Vandy and Louisville have a long-standing rivalry, and at times that rivalry has gotten very pissy. Help me with this because I've seen a little bit of it, but not always when it's been up in Louisville. What is the actual start of kind of some tough feelings on both sides?
Yeah, I think that's got to be limited to the fan bases, to be quite honest, because I know the players have a lot of respect for the other players. And of course, playing in the Cape Cod League and a lot of summer leagues together, there's a lot of familiarity. And I know that Coach Corbin and Coach Mack are very close. They're both very integrated with the USA Baseball Network and the Coaches Association and that. So I feel like it's much more of a fan thing. But, when they came to Louisville for 2009 in a regional, it was a regional the Cardinals won. They came back in 2010. Richie Goodnow played in a loser's bracket game and threw a complete game shutout. And then the Commodores squeezed us off in the 10th inning on our own field in the regional championship game in Game 7. The Cardinals then came down to Nashville, as you'll recall, in 2013 and swept the Super Regional from the number 2 overall national seed. That was a pretty big surprise. And of course, the teams have met in Omaha on multiple occasions. I think things were magnified, obviously, in 2019 with Luke Smith and everything that happened there in Omaha. And there's a traveling trophy that was established by a former member of our marketing department, Brett Aiken, the Battle for the Barrel, which has been, I think, each of the last 12 years and has been split evenly at 6-6. So I guess I don't really see it as contentious to say like the Louisville-Kentucky rivalry, but there's certainly some intensity in the Louisville-Vanderbilt baseball rivalry. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that the stakes have been very high when these two teams have played.
So I decided last night to go watch the 8 o'clock game. I wanted to see, I was curious about Wright State because, it was a shock. And Louisville put them away early. Tell me about the big kid who pitched last night, who's got to be at least 6'8". Man, he is all arms and legs.
Yeah, Ethan has a little bit of a Chris Sale arm angle to him, and
Yes.
He's listed at only 6'5". He maybe has grown during his freshman campaign. But yeah, Ethan's a young man that came into the program as a highly touted freshman. He's incredibly well-spoken and very thoughtful, and I had him in the postgame, and part of the theme for the Cardinals was a kind of a rough end of the season, a bad performance in the only ACC conference tournament game they played in, and then they scrimmaged a little bit. And so there was kind of a let's reset and let's refocus. And so I asked Ethan personally, what did he do personally to reset and refocus? And his answer was, I just told myself I needed to remain humble and hungry. I had a bad outing in the conference tournament, came out of the bullpen, which was a little awkward, but I wasn't good. And then we scrimmaged, and I'm not afraid to admit I wasn't very good. So I just had to, humble myself and focus in and follow in line. And as you guys know, pitching is very contagious. And so to watch Patrick Forbes have a dominant effort with 13 strikeouts in the opening game against ETSU, to see Tucker Biven in the bullpen pitch pretty well against the Vanderbilt team on Saturday, I think that there was a feeling of confidence there. And I mean, we can't kid ourselves that the losers bracket route is very difficult, and to play not just a game earlier in the day, but an emotionally wrought, close fought, and then crazy finish game had to be just emotionally and physically draining for the Raiders. And it's a program under Alex Sogard. I mean, he's won the Horizon Coach of the Year 5 times in 7 years. They've dominated that league. They've been in the postseason a lot, and they don't shy away from anybody in the regular season. So there's no intimidation factor for them. But I think Ethan was able to take advantage of some things that had to do with fatigue. And in the same light, he was willing to challenge him inside. He had the breaking ball working really well. He's got a funky arm angle, and he's evolved into a really legitimate weekend starter for the Cardinals, as we had our number 2 starter, Parker Detmers, go down 4 weeks into the season. So he's filled that role nicely. And I was really impressed with his composure last night with a career high 11 strikeouts over a career high 6 1/3 innings.
So obviously you guys are rooting for Miami tonight, so that you get the home field. What do you know about both of those teams, and is there a decided difference in them?
You know, it's terrible. The ACC scheduling, with the addition of Stanford and Cal this year, made it a 16-team league. And so with 10 conference weekends, there are a number of teams that you skip. And of course, Miami this year is a team that we skipped. And so I did not get a chance to really study them this year. I know they have 2 very good weekend starters. Hugus, the freshman, had a complete game in their regional opener. And I also know that Daniel Cuvée, their third baseman, is one of the best sophomores in the country. And the Cards played down in Coral Gables last year, were able to win the first 2 games of the series, and then got run ruled on getaway day. So there is some recency there with the opportunity to see Miami play. Ironically, one of our former All-Americans and a regional most valuable player, Chris Dominguez, is the third base coach for the Miami Hurricanes. So there's a link there. One of the players that Dan coached to the College World Series his first season back in 2007. So the team definitely knows Miami. I, as a broadcaster, having just driven back from Nashville this morning and actually punching in the clock onto my real job to try to get a few hours in this week, haven't had a chance to delve into it. I know that Southern Miss has a really good ace. This is my 26th season with Louisville baseball, so I go back to the Conference USA days, and we've spent plenty of weekend down in Hattiesburg at Pete Taylor Park, and that is a phenomenal facility, maybe some of the best fans and the best atmosphere in college baseball. And so I think the kids certainly relish the opportunity to have that challenge, having, been on the road, obviously, in the regional. And so you want to be at home. I mean, there's no question. It's easier when you're at home, but I don't know that the kids are going to shy away from things if they have to go down to Hattiesburg. So it's going to be interesting. And, these game 7s they're just insane. We've been in a few ourselves. It's a blessing not to have the stress of one today, to be honest.
Sean Moth is Louisville baseball's play-by-play voice. Kelly, what do you got for him?
John, so I saw where you guys came down here a couple of weeks ago and y'all beat Vandy. How much confidence do you think these guys had coming back to this regional? It was a tough regional. Billy had talked about it last week, talking about the Tennessee regional and then talking about the Vanderbilt regional, and he was like, Louisville is really good. So how much confidence did your team come in here after having beat Vanderbilt a couple of weeks earlier?
Yeah, I don't think there's any question that the win on May 6th helped. The teams play a home and home every other year. They alternate. And this year it happened to be in Louisville on May 6th. And the Cards were able to squeeze one out and win the Battle of the Barrel. But at the same time, against a team like Vandy, whose hallmark has been pitching and defense, their theme is they make you win the game. They're not going to win the game for you. They're not going to give the game away. And Brody Johnston had a real tough inning, had a couple errors. The Cards scored some unearned runs. I think, off the top of my head, the score was 5-3 Louisville. I think there were only 3 earned runs between the two teams in the game. It was a little bit sloppy, somewhat like the other night. So I know the Cards weren't going to kid themselves. The midweek games are drastically different. The same batters will compete. Sometimes you'll give a regular a night off. But when you get into a regional, you're facing the weekend arms, and then it becomes different. It's very different from Major League Baseball in that way. And so while the midweek games are really important, you're not always throwing your best arm. Usually it's your 3rd, 4th, 5th starter, or maybe it's a day where you call it Johnny Holstaff and everybody goes an inning. So the complexion of the game is very different. Vanderbilt had the luxury of throwing Nye. He's been midweek most of the year, and so that was interesting to get a look at him. But, he really didn't play a factor in the weekend as we had to face Bowker. And I think we were fortunate to come away with a victory. But I think anytime you get a win over a team and face them again later in the season, you feel good about the fact that you at least had a good experience against them. So I'm sure that had an impact.
So I saw where Coach McDonald's has been there for 19 seasons. He's been to 10 Super Regionals. What makes this team different than the other ones that he's taken to Super Regionals? Is there anything different? I mean, is this an overachieving team, underachieving? Not underachieving, but is this an overachieving team? And what makes this team this year?
Yeah, that's a great question. This team this year has been really interesting in that it's had a really good year. They have a series win over North Carolina. They have a series win over Florida State. They beat Texas. They beat Arizona. Obviously, the win over Vandy was a nice win for the squad. I mean, they were, I think, 7-4 against the national seeds in the tournament. They had 26 games against teams that advanced the NCAAs. They had, I think, 15 quad one wins once the regular season came to an end. And despite being around 35 wins, there were some struggles on the road in the conference, especially. Louisville had trouble winning series on the road in conference, and there's a little bit of a fade at the end. But what was odd about it is the Cardinals had 10 mercy rule victories, which is 10 or more runs after 7 innings. But at the same time, when things went bad for the Cardinals, I mean, they looked like Walter Matthau was in the dugout coaching this team. I mean, it was brutal. They were the bad news bears. And so to see some of the lows was a little alarming. Dan's not one to make excuses, but there have been a lot of injuries. And with those injuries, between Eddie King Jr., Alex Ali-Sayar, shortstop, and Matt Klein, the regional game on Friday against East Tennessee State was the second time this season that Coach was able to put the lineup on the field that he would put out if he was given the full complement of players. And so the regional marked the second, third, and fourth games of the season that he was able to do that with healthy players. And so I think that had a huge impact. They figured out some things with the starting rotation. I'd like to say it's an overachieving team in the regional only because the pitching was so much better than it's been this year. It's been very inconsistent this year. We've got a first rounder and Patrick Forbes starting things out in the rotation. He missed 3 starts. He was injured for a couple of others. Our number 2 starter, our Saturday starter, Parker Detmers, started 4 games and has been out for the rest of the season since. And so they've had to piece things together, but there's a little bit of a level of overachievement with this team. Dan, with those 10 super regionals in 18 years, has always had the hallmark of we win in the postseason. And after the conference tournament, the team pulled up to the stadium after the bus ride home from Durham, and he said to the team, look, I win in the postseason. Louisville wins in the postseason. And it was basically a message to the team that you're going to trust the coaching staff that's won in the postseason. We're going to work hard. We're going to refresh ourselves, and we're going to get back to where we need to be. And so I think that message was received well by the team, obviously. And so I think you're kind of looking at a different team than we saw in the regular season. There's certainly a few similarities to that 2007 team, but this team is wholly unique from the 5 previous teams that I've seen go to the College World Series and the 9 others that have been in Super Regionals.
Sean, appreciate you taking the time. Coming into this regional, we talked a lot about how offensively it was really good with Wright State. Louisville, obviously, with their pedigree, at the plate, especially what they've done this season. But in all 3 games, they got great outings from their pitchers. Forbes, who is a MLB prospect, set a program postseason record by striking out 13 in the opener against ETSU. And then he talked about Tucker Biven. He got the nod against Vanderbilt. He struck out 5 in 4 2/3 innings. And then, Eberle tossed a really good game as well against Wright State. Did you expect that pitching performance? I mean, because over the weekend, you look at the pitching performances for certain teams. Louisville might have been the best or up there with the best over regional weekend.
Yeah, and the answer to your question is absolutely not. When we came down to the regional, we understand what Vanderbilt is and the tradition and their seeding. And so our thought process was, at least behind the scenes, I don't know about the coaching staff and the team, but the water cooler staff that sits around and talks about it, or we're thinking to ourselves, I think we can win this regional. We're going to have to piece together the pitching staff, but we're just going to have to outslug some teams. And so to win the regional the way we did was shocking. And I think part of that was because, I know Vandy's been down offensively this year, but East Tennessee and Wright State are among the two of the better offensive teams in the country. And I mean, they absolutely pound the ball. The home runs that flew out of the yard, over the course of the seasons for those two teams in Johnson City, Tennessee, and in Fairborn, Ohio were stunning. And so I think we expected to see a lot of that. And I guess it's kind of like those football matchups when you tout the top two defenses in the country and then the final score is 35-32. I guess sometimes that happens, but it was a very pitching minded regional. And honestly, I was really impressed with what Wright State brought to the mound, in addition to what the Cardinals were able to do. And, Vandy's hallmark has always been pitching. So I don't think Vandy got a very good draw as the number one overall seed. I think that's probably as tough a 3 seed as you can get. I think the fate of getting Louisville probably wasn't great, even though it was probably a fair 2 seed, because the Cards were on the brink of being a 3. And Wright State was in a position where this is the only regional they could travel to without having to fly. And so that's something the NCAA likes to do. So I felt a little badly for Vandy. Yeah, I'm not going to give a whole lot of sympathy to the program, but it was a very tough draw. It was a very tough regional. But yeah, the pitching was very surprising. The Cardinals have had a lot of problems with walking batters this year. And the fact that I think in the last 2 regional games, they gave up 9 singles was pretty remarkable.
All right, last thing from me. This NCAA tournament has been insane, and this regional was a great example. Vandy came in really hot. They won the SEC tournament, and was a big team to watch. A team that a lot of people were picking to potentially get to Omaha and win the national title. Louisville, on the other hand, they had dropped 7 of their last 10 games, lost in the ACC tournament, a 5-game losing streak. They had a loss to Bellarmine in the midweek there, but they end up coming out of this regional as the 2 seed. In a way, Sean, are fans looking around going, man, it's almost easier to be that 2 seed sometimes, especially when you're playing the number 1 overall national seed with the pressure they have on them?
Yeah, they'll always say a loose team is a dangerous team, and I think there's definitely some credence to that. It's so interesting in regional play because in 2007, obviously Dan's first year, he had 0 experience on the roster. The Cards have been to 1 regional in their history, and it was in 2002. And then once he got the momentum going, every year you bring back kids that have had that regional and that postseason experience. And I thought it was ironic that when we faced off with East Tennessee State on Friday in game 1, there was 1 player on the 2 rosters that had any postseason experience. And it was a senior pitcher for us that was a portal transfer from Indiana State that had pitched in 1 game. And he went the distance and won the game at a regional in Kentucky. But outside of that, there's not a single returning player on the roster that had been to a regional. So there had been some lean years for the Louisville baseball team. The pandemic in 2020, the Cards had one of the best teams in the country, were ranked number 1, and then things shut down. 21 was a tough year for everybody, and things just didn't go Louisville's way. The Cards go to a super regional in 22, but they miss out on a regional in 23. They miss out on a regional in 24, and that's not been the standard for Dan McDonnell. And so to bring a team to a regional that didn't have any experience, I think is really impressive. And I think there's a little bit of a house money attitude when you're the 2 seed, because what's the expectation when you go to the 1 overall seed? You're going to lose the regional. And so what do you have to lose? And so I think there's some credence to that. I think 5 2 seeds made it through on day 1 of the regional championships to the round of 16. And so that's saying an awful lot about it, because who saw UTSA going down to Austin and punching the Longhorns in the face? I mean, it is shocking.
It is shocking. Sean, thank you for taking the time to join us. Good luck to you guys wherever it ends up.
All right, George and Kelly, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Sean Moth, play-by-play voice of the Louisville Baseball Cardinals. After the break, a few 100,000 thoughts on Vandy's meltdown that has them out and out way early. This is 94.9 The Fan.
When I got my first car, my dad told me, keep the gas tank full and my number on speed dial. Now parents are telling their kids, save 615-242-9000 just in case. I'm Blair Durham. If you or someone you love is in a wreck, call us. We're here to get you the money you deserve.
If you are paying too much for your health insurance, you know what? You need to contact the folks at Pancoast Benefits. Pancoast works with businesses and individuals to tackle the high cost of health insurance. Whether you're a business owner, large or small, self-employed, between jobs, or over the age of 65 and in need of a Medicare plan, Pancoast can help. They make understanding your benefits less difficult and more personal. So check them out today, pancoastbenefits.com, or call them at 615-292-3400.
Nashville Sounds Baseball is back in Hit City for the 2025 season. Create a summer of memories at the ballpark with weekly giveaways, fireworks shows, and more. Tickets are on sale now.
Attention sports fans, the George Plaster Show will broadcast live this Friday from the grand opening of X Golf at 209 South Royal Oaks in Franklin. If you love golf in any form or fashion, this is where you need to be. Experience the future of golf through the world's most accurate simulator. See you in Franklin on Friday. Two total screw-ups of humongous proportions.
Sports. We're not living in an era where perfection is necessary.
They thought they were a championship contending team.
Here, we told you not to do this. Your sports live here.
On ESPN 94.9. The Fan.
And the Game Nashville Sports Network.
It's the George Plaster Show.
Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan.
So Tennessee tries to keep their season alive in about an hour and a half against Wake Forest in a game up in Knoxville. Vandy is the number one overall seed out in a shocking way. A couple of thousand thoughts from it. Home yesterday, and I see all these teams, from 5 o'clock to about 7:30, and the emotion and the fist pumping and the excitement. And I'm like, I didn't see any of that out of Vandy. I saw a team that looked really tight, that looked almost scared of losing, and showed a plate discipline that was just downright embarrassing, because the guy that Wright State threw, they should have tattooed. But instead, Billy, their lack of plate discipline yesterday was embarrassing.
The whole weekend was embarrassing. I mean, they for them to look the way they did the entire weekend at the plate, they hit about 120 through 3 games. And for people that don't know what that batting average means, it's bad.
That's one out of every 8.
It's very bad.
1 out of every 8 point whatever.
And
8.3.
Corbin credited the pitching, and these are tournament teams. These are really good pitching staffs. But you look at some of the numbers of the pitchers they faced. The Wright State guy on Friday night was legit. I mean, he went out there and shoved, only threw 76 pitches, and then Wright State pulls him.
By the way, taking him out was stupid.
Mind-boggling.
If you've got a no-hitter going in an NCAA tournament game and I'm the coach, I'm telling you, look, unless your arm falls off, I am not taking you out before you give up a hit. No matter what. I didn't get that, but it sure helped. It was the one reason Vandy won on Friday night. All the warning signs were out there.
Yeah.
Come Saturday night, and it only got worse.
Yeah, there's just nothing doing at the plate. They pitched fine. They played defense well, but they could not hit the baseball. And this is now 4 years. The past 4 seasons, they haven't been able to get out of a regional. 2 of them, they're home regional. The other 2 were regionals on the road. And, we're talking off air, George. I do think it's fair to wonder, is there something internally going on, whether it's a mindset, whether it's you get to a regional, you get to the postseason, and for some reason the players aren't laser focused. They play tight. They're not playing loose, and there's a lot of questions that I think need to be answered because this isn't the Vanderbilt baseball standard. I mean, their standard is winning regionals, winning super regionals, and getting to Omaha. And you can't do that every year. They're not going to do that every year. But bowing out in regionals for 4 straight years, it's fair to question some things. So, but
yeah, I mean,
I do want to credit Gentry Estes for Vandy fans out there that haven't read his piece on the Tennessean is really good. So go read that. He does a really good job of outlining, basically giving suggestions of you look at teams, you look at Wright State, they had fun. I mean, Friday night, they were having a blast. They were loud in that dugout, and they're a bunch of homegrown kids that aren't making NIL money. They've got a great team culture, and that's really what won out over the weekend in a lot of these regionals, where it doesn't matter in the postseason. It doesn't matter how much NIL money you have. Doesn't matter who you get out of the portal. It's about coming to play in the postseason, and Vandy didn't.
Kelly, one of the things that, because believe me, I heard it all yesterday from fans as I sat in the stands. So they had, during the streak where they were on fire, they had 3 games with 9th inning homers that won. So you ask yourself, okay, how good were they really?
Yeah.
Were good enough at one point to go on this tear. But I know in March when I saw them, I was like, their everyday lineup doesn't scare me. And in this regional, their everyday lineup didn't produce a lick. And to me, their lack of plate discipline was embarrassing.
Well, that's and I've talked about it a lot with Danny. I talked to him last year about expectations. And Billy, when you're a Wright State, you're not expected to win this thing. You're not expected to win a game. So they can go in there footloose and fancy free and don't have to worry about anything. They're just going out and playing baseball, and you host a regional. That's a lot of expectations on a team that's hosting a regional. And I don't know if it's deep down in, but, George, you said it. You didn't think that they were probably a number 1 seed.
Not the number 1 overall. I mean, I think we now know that they weren't quite at that level.
Right.
What level is hard to pin?
Yeah, and I don't know. I just think that you talk about uptight, and then I start thinking about this, guys, and I know that I beat this horse to death every time, but like with all this stuff going on in the transfer portal and all this stuff about these kids now being like, hey, if I got to fight for something, I don't have to do that. I can just transfer somewhere else. I was a 4-star, 5-star coming out of high school. Like what? Like there's no hardened mentality anymore from kids. And you just wonder if this stuff is starting to affect some of these schools and affect how these kids play and affect how these kids play under pressure.
Yeah.
That's because when you never face adversity, George, you know this, like when you never face adversity, when it hits you in the face, you either crumble or you step up to it. And a lot of times these kids nowadays, because they've never had to face it, they're crumbling under the pressure. So I think about that when I think about, the number 1 team and the number 2 team both getting kicked out. And I know it's happened before, but, it makes me think about just how hard these kids are nowadays mentally. Like, I don't know if they're very mentally tough.
That's fair.
Oh, yeah.
And Vitello talks about it a lot. He, Corbin's not one to bring up social media and the influence on these kids and how much they do have to battle. But Vitello brings it up. He's, it's wild out there with these kids being called out by name and they're making money, and we've talked about that. Like Kelly, you brought it up that it's fair that people criticize them, but they're also some of these kids that some of these kids are 18 years old, 19 years old, and they're expected to take their team to the Final Four this year, or pitch 7-8 innings of shutout ball and to punch your ticket to the Super Regional or what have you, and then when they don't, here it comes. I mean, it's tough, but it's also Division I athletics, so
I'll say this. I have never heard that stadium, Hawkins Field, as quiet.
Oh, it was a morgue.
Really?
Yeah, from about the 5th inning on, as the realization hit that this is probably what's going to happen. What's weird is they almost forced a bottom of the 9th inning, a double up the alley at the end, goes in the stands instead of staying on the field. If it stays on the field, they tie the game, and so there ends up being a bottom of the 9th. That part's crazy because it never felt until that inning that anything was going to happen.
Yeah.
Anyway, I know we're late to the break. When we come back, we'll have stat of the day, which if we're smart, we'll dump in Willy's lap. Willy Daunic will join us. We'll find out about his trip to Ohio with Denison, where his son Mahoney has been pitching. And then around 4:20 today, I will delve into beat writers and coaches and some of the pitfalls, the landmines that go on in that, because that has been the source of a lot of water cooler talk in the last 48 hours. This is 94.9, The Fan.
Looking for your favorite sports?
How about sports? You follow sports?
We probably have it. Just log on to the Information Superhighway. Oh, they don't call it that anymore?
To start, press any key. Where's the any key?
Head to theGameNashville.com.
The password. We're in.
You'll find what time your game starts and what station it's on.
Oh, they have the internet on computers now.
That's what's up. Your sports live here.
What an age we live in.
On the Game Nashville Sports Network. Listen on the air.
So don't tell me to chill out.
On the web at theGameNashville.com.
This team has strategically put themselves back in the mix.
Watch us on YouTube or download the Game Nashville app.
You have to make those plays.
Your sports live here on the Game Nashville Sports Network.
Nashville, the semifinals of the PFL World Tournament begin Thursday, June 12th. Former welterweight world champion Jason Jackson takes on rising star the Silverback Thad Jean, plus 2023 PFL World Champ Jesus Pinedo and Gabriel Braga collide in a highly anticipated trilogy match. Don't miss your chance to see the action live June 12th at Municipal Auditorium in Nashville. Visit PFLMMA.com/schedule for more info.
Evan, Canty, and Michelle are unsportsmanlike.
How are y'all complaining about more football?
No,
You don't get worried about oversaturation.
4 windows of NFL football? No, it's not oversaturation. I love it. I love it. I mean, you watch football, you eat, take a nap. Wake up, watch football, eat, take a nap. And then wake up, watch a little more football, have dessert, go to sleep.
Unsportsmanlike. Weekday mornings starting at 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on ESPN2. Earlier on Clinton and Friends.
At this stage of the game, there's just so much to enjoy in a league like the W, that the fact that we're still getting caught up in the kind of mouth breather foolishness that we saw a lot of people bring to the table once Caitlin Clark joined, it's unfortunate. It just feels like such a lowest common denominator kind of situation that almost has nothing to do with anything on the court.
Clinton and Friends, weekdays from 10 to noon Eastern on ESPN Radio and on the ESPN app.
Your sports live here. WBUZ HD3 Laverne. All around the world on the Game Nashville app. We are the Game Nashville Sports Network. ESPN 94.9. The Fan.
It's the George Plaster Show.
Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan.
Time for stat of the day before Willy Daunic in the On Deck Circle, brought to you by Apple Collision Centers. You can find them in Old Hickory, Hendersonville, and Gallatin. Give them a call, 615-754-9800, or log on to their website at applecollisioncenters.com. All right. If you were listening closely enough earlier, you guys both should get this answer.
Oh, no.
Oh,
Both
gosh.
Texas
Here
and
we
Vandy.
go.
Both Texas and Vandy failed to make the Super Regional the first time the top two national seeds failed to make a Super Regional since when?
Well, it's 2014, and thanks to a listener who
There
was
you go,
really
baby.
nice, was it Oregon State and Florida?
Yeah, those were
the two teams.
Yeah, those were the top two seeds.
Wow. 2014.
Vandy,
Wow.
I think was a 1 seed, but they didn't host. They weren't a top 8. I think they were like number 14 that year, overall seed.
Where did they go?
Well, they hosted. They hosted this year.
No,
They weren't.
I'm
weren't.
talking about in 2014.
Where did they go?
Yeah, in other words, if they were not, if they
where'd they
won
go for the
region,
Super?
yes.
Was it Illinois? I think it might.
I thought that was a year later.
Was that a year later?
Shout it out. Duke? They didn't go to
No,
Duke.
that was 2019.
Yeah.
Willie might know. How do I not know?
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, how do you not know, you little nerd? It's unbelievable, Billy.
So are we now officially into the 4:00 hour?
Yes.
Well, that's wonderful. Not only are we officially into it, but we welcome all of you to my rec room. Billy is here, and this is because your car has semi-exploded.
Oh, well, you just had to say that in public.
Well, I mean, it's on the disabled list.
Yes.
Okay.
Hey, it's been on the disabled list, George. There's something going on with that car all the time. I promise you. If you look and see that the way that young William keeps it up, it's not very good.
Yeah. What kind of car did you have when you were 25, Kelly?
He was an NFL quarterback.
Let me think.
Yeah.
I think I had a Jeep Cherokee at that point there, Billy.
Okay. Yeah.
Mercedes.
I think your paycheck was a little bit more than mine.
Well, hey, you had your opportunity, man. That's what I tell everybody. You had your opportunity to do it too. So
to do what? To play quarterback?
To go on further with whatever he was doing. I mean, I found a niche that I could throw the football. I'm sorry that Billy, you had no athletic ability. I'm sorry for you.
Yeah.
However, as we do welcome you into the 4:00 hour, we should tell you that North Carolina leads Oklahoma 8-2 in the bottom of the 6th inning in the do or die game in Chapel Hill. Willy Daunic is somewhere, but I don't know where, because over the weekend he was up in Ohio. Willie, how are you?
George, I am recovering just like everybody else who is a Commodore follower, and also I am a Denison Big Red follower, and their great run ended yesterday in the College World Series up in Cleveland. So I'm now with Mahoney Daunic in the car, and we are Nashville bound in a little rush hour traffic right now in Columbus. So we're moving at a nice slow pace for this interview.
Now, wait a minute. We're in Columbus, Ohio?
Columbus, Ohio, yes.
Okay, so it's going to be a while.
It may be a little while, yeah. But we packed up all the stuff. George, do you remember? It was the Stanford Cardinal who had pulled an upset over Indiana in the regional in 2014. So Vanderbilt got to host. Their team was better in 2015 and 2013. They weren't as good in 2014, but they still won the whole thing. They got on a run. As you mentioned, they got a couple breaks, a couple of top seeds lost. They got hot at the right time. And I'm sure, as we'll talk about here, that's what it's all about, really, when you get there. But it was Stanford that came in, and it was a tough 3-game series, but Vanderbilt got to host, and that got them to Omaha.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, George, do you and Kelly and Billy remember moving out of your freshman dorm in college?
No question.
Yes.
It's not
but unfortunately, Willie, I had to move right back in.
Well, they did too. They got to stay. They didn't have to move within the campus after classes ended and they were in the postseason. They almost did. That would have been a nightmare. But all that stuff, all that just clutter that you accumulate over your it's like you find some buried treasure in your mattresses and stuff. There's no telling what might be in there.
Okay, so wait a minute. Let me make sure I've got this right. So you basically cleaned out Mahoney's dorm room?
No, he did. He did. I came down. So their team came back from Cleveland this morning.
Mm-hmm.
I actually had an odyssey. If anybody was listening to 102.5 The Game, I actually did the show from Nationwide Arena today through our buddy Marty Mulford, who used to work for the Predators. He now works for the Blue Jackets. And so I said, I just need somewhere where I won't be annoying anybody that has internet. And I pulled up in Columbus. So Mahoney had time to clean up his dorm. You notice I didn't really want to be there when the cleanup started. I kind of came in for the close.
So where did they play in Cleveland?
They played in a place called Classic Auto Park, which is the high A minor league team for the Guardians. So it's a nice minor league park. It seats, 6,000-7,000, maybe a little more if they want to bring everybody in. Very, very well done. It's about 15 miles from Cleveland in a town called Eastlake. So it's basically a suburb of Cleveland.
Nice.
And they won the first game just like Vanderbilt did. And then they just hit the wall. They lost 2 games yesterday. The other teams were on their game. Denison wasn't quite there. And so they made the World Series for the first time in school history, which was great. They ended up at 41-7. But this is sports, right? It's so hard to win the whole thing.
So how much were you able to see of this meltdown?
For Vanderbilt, I saw most of it. I didn't see as much of yesterday's game. I saw the first 2 games. And I really think, in looking back on it, that the second game was everything. And you guys know this. In the double elimination, when you go 2-0, you've got it by a vice grip. A lot has to go wrong for you to not win it at that point. But if you go 1-1 and you've got to win 3 straight, it is extremely difficult. Vanderbilt has done it, but it's rare. But I thought that the mojo kind of burst when Vanderbilt was down 3-2. They had second and third no out. Louisville looked a little shaky. And then Colin Barzey hit the line shot that the third baseman knocked down. That has been a hit. Think about how many times in the last 3 or 4 weeks that when they've needed that big hit, that type of ball is finding a hole every time. And it didn't. And then all of a sudden, they don't put the ball in play after that. They don't score. And you could feel that weight starting to kick up. Like they weren't able to find that mojo where, one hit, another guy gets hot, they lost all of that. In fact, it went the other way. I heard Tim been talking about it in his press conference, saying sometimes when people are pressing, you want so badly to do well for your team, you try too hard, and it gets worse, and the weight gets heavier.
Yeah, their plate discipline was downright awful yesterday, and unfortunately, that's ultimately what's got them home and got Louisville, who knows where, either Hattiesburg or hosting if Miami wins in Louisville. So I'm sure you've got an opinion or two on the Stanley Cup final, which has 2 Godzillas going at each other. There's this narrative that Connor McDavid needs a Stanley Cup championship, the trophy, the title, to somehow solidify his greatness. Willie, I think that's a load of crap, but you hear that a lot.
Yeah, and he is obviously obsessed with it. And probably more than one. He's that type of player, and I think eventually he'll get it. But this year, it's going to be very difficult. I don't know if you guys saw, they lost. They got Matthias Ekholm back, our longtime buddy who played for the Predators for a long, long time, traded to the Oilers. He's back, and I don't know that he's going to be 100%. So you're getting a percentage of him, but not 100%. And then they just lost Zach Hyman, who is kind of the Robin, or I don't know if that's not the right thing. He's the secondary guy. You've got Pippen and Jordan, right? Draisaitl and McDavid. And then the next wave is led by Zach Hyman. He's a guy that is a great scrappy guy that picks up all those greasy goals, the garbage goals where you're paying so much attention to those other two guys that he's the guy that ends up getting a lot of big ones, and they've lost him. So I think there's a sizable advantage for Florida in this series because of that.
By the way, not a lot of Braves talk on the show these days.
Why not?
Because they suck.
Have you lost that much confidence in you guys? Come on. You remember a couple years ago they came flying out of the gate after that slow start, and they went wild and didn't lose for about 3 months. You remember that?
Yes, I do. Do I believe?
You don't think that could happen?
Oh, it could happen. It could happen. It's not gonna. This team's dead. Willie, this team plays with no energy. None.
Hey, look, I've seen that horror movie before, so I'm not going to be the guy that thinks the monster's dead and then gets killed when the monster comes back to life at the end of the movie. So I'm not writing them off anytime soon.
Well, I hope you're right, but I don't see anything. I see no spark. I see nothing. And I see a relief corps of a bunch of bums that can't get anybody out.
But I think they've got Acuna, they've got Strider back, they've got most of their guys back. So I think eventually they'll overcome some of those other weaknesses that you just talked about. Nobody's perfect. I think all they got to do is get in as the wild card, and anything can happen. I think that wild card is very gettable. Actually, there's three, as the Nets found out last year.
Yeah, you haven't looked at the standings in a while, have you?
I'm projecting.
I know it. I like that. Let's go to Kelly. Kelly, say hello to Mr. Positive here, Willy Daunic.
How you doing, man?
Kelly.
What's going on, brother?
I was close to the old stomping ground where you threw for 400 yards, my man. I was thinking about you. What?
I know.
They're building a new stadium. They're building a new stadium in Cleveland.
I was going to say that I've been in Columbus in rush hour, and it's not very fun.
Yeah. Tell me about it. It's not good.
It's not very fun. Hey, so let's go back to baseball. And I was talking about with these guys because, George says it was an abysmal deal that went on. And Billy talked about, how everybody was, both of them talked about how Vanderbilt played tight. But, just talk about expectations. I've talked with Danny Evans about that on the show. But expectations of being a regional host, that's kind of a big deal. And if you don't have really confidence in yourself, which I don't know if anything about the Vanderbilt team, but if they went into it thinking, we've done enough. Nobody thought we were going to be here. They were talking about us at the beginning of the year being this far down the SEC, and now we're number 1 overall seed, and we're in a regional. Just talk about the expectations and when you start playing bad. You just talked about it a little bit, and Tim Corbin talked about it. But when the weight of the world feels like it's on you, and then you start making mistakes or you start not hitting the ball, it even feels heavier. Just talk about expectations on young kids that are expected to win.
I think, as we talked about in a couple of weeks leading up, I think we talked going into the Tennessee series that I think Vanderbilt was on an uptick. But if you told any of us, if I threw out there on that show when we were talking that Vanderbilt is going to be the number 1 overall seed, I think you guys would have said, "What? No way. They're not that type of team." I think we have to keep in perspective that this team overachieved to get the 1 overall seed. I think there's an expectation every year of going to the regionals, hosting regionals. So I don't think they should have been feeling pressure for hosting, but I do think when you ascend, you go that much on a streak to get the 1 overall seed. I think there might have been just a little bit, probably unconscious feeling of, can we keep playing this well? Are we this good? And unfortunately, the bubble burst a little bit. And that feeling of tightness, Kelly, I'll ask you, you played enough baseball, right? In football, when you got the better team, you have a sense that you can overpower physically. You're taking the game right to the other. If you're better, you know that unless you completely goof it up with fumbles and things like that, you should win. In baseball, it's a little bit more of there's a randomness, right? You got to hope your pitcher's on. You got to hope that the ball's falling for you. You can go ice cold. It's a little different, I think, being the favorite in baseball as opposed to a big favorite in football.
We lose Kelly?
I think we might have lost Kelly.
We lose Kelly?
I'm here.
Oh, hold on. He's back.
I can't hear Willie. I didn't hear Willie at all.
With my philosophical question.
Kelly,
Did you guys hear my question?
Kelly didn't hear you.
I didn't hear you at all. That's okay. Did he finish his answer? Because I didn't hear any of it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Kelly, you played enough baseball. I think there's a sense in football you can overpower your opponent. In baseball, you face a good pitcher, your bats go a little bit cold. It's a little tougher to overpower the opposition, just the way the game is designed. Do you agree?
I do agree. I do agree with that. I do agree with that. And here's another thing that I was going to ask you. And I just asked George and Billy about this because you're Mr. Optimistic. And I asked you a question about the NBA the other day, and you brought up the three-point shot, which is a good point that I hadn't thought of. And they're talking about it on the broadcast. But I'm going to ask you this, like with all this transfer portal and stuff going on nowadays, with kids not having to really face adversity, like if you're facing adversity now, say you have to fight for a job and you lose the job and then you get bellyache and you say, well, the coach doesn't like me. Well, all you got to do is transfer. So is that kind of getting into college sports, college baseball? Just give us some of your optimistic things because, like when you're hosting a regional and you lose and you're expected to win, and we know sometimes things don't go your way and sometimes you just don't play good. But like, is that kind of creeping in when all these kids are transferring into a program and you have a year to kind of mold them into a team, but you really don't know the inside and out of each player? Is that kind of showing up in some of this disappointment with these teams not winning?
That's a really good question. I don't know the answer to that. I just think in sports, a lot of times we can cite examples of a great ride that comes to an end for whatever reason, and you're looking around for like, when did the mojo end? And so I don't know about this. That's a deep question, Kelly. I will say this. I think it's a great topic in general in sports about what effect is it? Because I think it's even more – it's even before we get to college and we have these options of transferring and going for NIL and all that stuff. Think about travel ball. Think about the way people jump high schools now and the rules loosening up there. You don't like your situation on your travel ball team? Your parents take you to another travel ball team. Hey, I don't like the coach. He's not playing me. I'll start my own travel ball team, and we'll go up against that team. I'll take these 3 families over here that aren't happy. You didn't used to have those options, right? It was just like you show up in your local little league or your local rec center, and you sign up, and they put you on a team, and you play. Now it's very complicated, and it's very easy at a young age to say, hey, it's not going well for Johnny, so let's change Johnny's situation. I don't know what effect that's having on sports in general, but I think it's having some, don't you think?
Somewhere in here, I guess Kelly's not hearing.
I'm good now. He went out on me again, but I'm good.
Okay. Are you hard of hearing?
No, I'm not. Well, I am hard of hearing, but I promise you, he went out on me again. He was giving a really good answer. That's pointed like that. That's why you got Willie on here, because he's got the voice of reason for me. And then he, I kind of stumped him with that one, which is kind of incredible.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Kelly, what was your experience growing up? You did not have travel ball options, I'm guessing. when you were growing up? You and I are close to the same age, right?
I did. Yeah, I did not. I played with. Well, I started travel ball when I was in high school. I did, and I played with the same team. But it's totally different now than it was back then. You know that,
right? So you raise kids in this travel ball thing. It's very different. And my point basically is, you don't like your situation, you change it, right? That you see families do it all the time. You don't want to do that, but you see families get a little snobby, or hey, the coach isn't right, or my kid's not playing enough, so let's switch. I think that has an effect on sports. And then so you enter into college already with the mindset of, hey, if I'm not playing my freshman year, I'll leave. I'll go somewhere else.
Right.
Well, what's your read on, people say, well, it's baseball. I get a little sick of that where, you start to look back at the last 3 to 4 years of Vanderbilt baseball. I don't think you can just chalk it up as it's just baseball. They haven't made it out of a regional in 4 years. What is your read on why that has been the case? And that's probably a hard question to answer. But are you in the mold of, well, it's just baseball. Things like this happen in this tournament.
I think it's 50%. It's just baseball. It's the nature of the sport, as we've already discussed. I would say, and Billy, we talked about this going in, there was an adjustment that Tim Corbin philosophically had to make, where his team, after COVID, after NIL, after transfers, it messed up the formula. It forced him to adapt. I think the adaptation is happening. So I really like the direction it's going. And I think they will continue. But these Vanderbilt teams these last couple of years have not had the behemoths, high first-round picks, the Kumar Rocker, Sonny Gray, David Price, Mike Minor. They don't have that guy, right? Or 2 or 3 of those guys, a Dansby Swanson, a Pedro Alvarez. He's got a really, really good baseball team that overachieved. So I think that is a little bit of it, that this team didn't have that secondary and third wave of if we're not getting the bounces, we're not getting the breaks, we'll still overcome it because we're that much better. I don't think they have that margin for error, but I'd say in another year or two, I feel good about there will be another run. And also they're just due to have in the category of it's just baseball. I remember having a conversation with Tim Corbin a long time ago, and I don't remember what year it was. It might have been after they lost that Michigan game in 2007, or it might have been another year where he had a really good team. He really thought they were going to win, and they unexpectedly lost early. I told him, I said, the way baseball works, you're going to have a team that's not as good that wins the whole thing. And I was right, because I think 2014, as we talked about before, was a little bit like that. That wasn't their best team. It was a heck of a team, but it wasn't their best team. But they got hot at the right time and won. So I think it's a combination of the two, Billy. I know it sounds like an excuse. Hey, it's baseball. It's not 100% that, but baseball is tough. But I also think there's another level that Tim Corbin has had in the past that he's working through this new world of getting back to.
Willie, I don't know where you are. You started in Columbus. I doubt you've reached Cincinnati. Safe travels. Give my best to Mahoney. And I know he wants you to give me his best.
Oh, yes. He's a big fan of yours, George. No question about it. He does like talking trash about the Braves, though.
Yes, I'm well aware of that. You tell the little rat I said.
I'd have him say hello.
Yeah, you tell
we
the
made
rat
it
I
through the
said hello.
Columbus rush hour, and we're barreling on I-71. We're going full speed now.
That's beautiful. Take care. Drive safe.
All right. We'll see you back in Nashville.
Okay. Our thanks to Willy Daunic. After the break, I'm going to get into what has been some of the water cooler talk in the city over the last 36 hours. Coach and beat writer, they go at it. We'll talk about it next on 94.9 The Fan.
When I got my first car, my dad told me, keep the gas tank full and my number on speed dial. Now parents are telling their kids, save 615-242-9000 just in case. I'm Blair Durham. If you or someone you love is in a wreck, call us. We're here to get you the money you deserve.
It's easy to say good things about the folks at Strike and Spare Family Fun Centers. Number one, I trust them with something that's near and dear to me, the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. But more importantly, I see the fun people have. They enjoy the bowling, they enjoy the camaraderie, and you will too. Come by any of their locations and get ready to have some fun.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
Are you ready to begin? Trevecca Nazarene University. From calling to becoming.
The Nashville Cats are charging towards the playoffs. Tune in for their next game against Corpus Christi Sunday, June 1st at 5 p.m. Catch the live play-by-play action on Totally Hits 93.3. For tickets, go to NashvilleCats.com. That's NashvilleCats.com.
I trained my entire life to be the best. I was one of the fastest women in the entire country. But woke politics made me swim against a man, sharing the pool and the locker room. That's not just dangerous, it's degrading. Thank God for Marsha Blackburn. No one fights harder to protect us. Marsha Blackburn will always stand for strong women, because she's one of us.
I'm Marsha Blackburn, and I approve this message.
Master Show. Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan.
So, as a lot of you know, there was a dust-up after Saturday night's game between Vanderbilt baseball coach Tim Corbin and Aria Gerson from the Tennesseans. She is the Tennesseans' Vanderbilt baseball beat writer. And I want to talk about that for just a second, because in the newspaper business, there are two different kinds of writers. There are beat writers who basically stay with a team all year and ask all the why and what went into this and blah, blah, blah. And then there are columnists like the late, great David Clymer, the late Joe Biddle, Gentry Estes. They are writers who write opinions on what they've seen. So it's funny because as good of friends as Kevin Stallings and I are, Kelly, we have laughed over the years that if I were a beat writer, the two of us would have hated each other. And we've laughed about it. It's probably true. The beat writer basically covers on a daily basis And that person's job is to ask why. And there are times where beat writers get on the last nerve of the coach and vice versa. I am not here to say who's right or who's wrong because I don't know all of the history. It is apparent to me that there is past history, not all of which I maybe know about. So with that in mind, there are two things here. A beat writer has to have a coach's access, or the beat writer is screwed. It's just that simple. Kelly, you've in your pro football world dealt with people who were the beat writer.
Yes, very much so.
On the other hand, the coach, in particular in the old days, needed the newspaper and the beat writer to get the information out about his or her team.
Yep.
And so there's sort of a trade-off between the two of them. What I see that goes on a lot is a lot of tap dancing, where a beat writer has to sort of sense, okay, how do I ask this question? Because the coach probably pissed off, may have lost a tough game, whatever. And how do you ask it in a way, or are you able to get a trust with a coach where you can ask the hard question without all hell breaking loose? And it is really a difficult job. I would not want to be a beat writer, period.
I was not a fan of beat writers, but that is their job. It's a tough job, George, and they have to ask you questions. They're around. They're there every day, and you know, I didn't read the paper. I tried to stay away from that stuff. You know, and print media is going. You know, Mike is on every week with us, but print media is tough nowadays. But beat writers they can be annoying, George. They really can. I mean, it was every day you had to hear it. And then if you're struggling with your playing right now or you're not playing well, and you know you got to answer the questions every day, but that's part of the job. We know that. That's part of the job. And they come into the locker room and they're going to ask crazy questions. Nowadays, the thing that bothers me, though, is everybody sensationalizes stories. So a lot of times there's no accountability, George. When you say something, they kind of maneuver it how they can use it. You know what I'm saying? And that's not exactly what came out of your mouth. And that used to always piss me off a little bit. And you have to, you know, you call people out on it, but there's no accountability for it. They're just trying to sell papers. They're trying to sell print. They're trying to sell what they say. And a lot of times it's not accurate. It wasn't accurate for me. I mean, you know, but you move a word around or you say a different word than I said. I didn't like that. But some beat writers are good, I'm sure, but some beat writers just got on my nerves, George.
Kelly, one of the things that I learned during my lawsuit 20 years ago, and Mike and I dealt with each other a lot.
Yeah.
The Tennesseans sort of assigned him my situation. And I would give him quotes, and then I would ask him, can you read the quote back to me?
Yeah.
Because I want to make sure this sounds the way I think it sounded when I said it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's sort of what I would always do. That was my way of trying to make sure that before it got printed, that I knew exactly what I said and that it sounded the way I wanted it to say. That was one little trick that I learned that I think athletes in scenarios, I think it would help.
That's pretty good, George. But when you're surrounded by a multitude of people, like I didn't have just Mike standing in front of me. I mean, a lot of times you had 15, 16, up to 20 reporters around you with, you know, when you're on television and they got that spotlight on, whatever's coming out of your mouth is what you said. But then when you go to print people, like they can maneuver it sometimes the way that they want the story to look. And That happened to me several times. That happens to everybody. And if they're not recording stuff, they're writing stuff down. They can't write that fast enough. And, they have to record stuff. So I don't know. Sometimes it's not accurate, and I didn't like that. But that's the world we're in. That was the world that I was in.
Billy, what I heard Saturday night when I heard it Sunday didn't sound like Tim. The Tim that I've dealt with for 20 years, that didn't sound like him. I don't pretend to know all the history. I'll bet my bottom dollar there is some, and that they have probably gotten on each other's last nerve.
Yeah, they have. They have. And look, you lose 3-2 against Louisville in the 1-0 regional game. The loser head coach of that game is not going to be happy most of the time in a game that tight that means that much. But you're right, Kelly. They got a job to do. That those questions are going to be asked. They're doing their job, and it's kind of the unfortunate hard side of being a head coach, a Division I head coach, an NFL, MLB manager, and look. I think with Tim Corbin, he was a lot better yesterday. I'll say that. I mean, there was you go back and watch Saturday's press conference and compare it to Sunday's, it's night and day. So there's that for anybody, wanting to ream Corbin for what he did.
So here is, I guess, where I'm kind of going with this, because I'm not giving you all a lot of earth-shaking analysis here, other than to say the columnist at a newspaper writes the opinions, the beat writer asks the why, the why of everything. For instance, I would claim, because here's the easy thing. Well, the coach is paid really, really well all over college and pro. Coaches are paid really, really good money to put up with this crap. And so I made the joke earlier today that if there was a beat writer covering this show, and after every show I had to have a press conference, and the questions were, why did you take that cheap shot at Billy? Okay. At some point, even though, especially if I was a coach, that I'm making great money, at some point you're human and you kind of snap. And there looks like there was a snap on Saturday night. I don't know all of the stuff that leads up to it. It doesn't seem like Corbin, but it also, I don't know all the history. But I'm pretty damn certain there must have been some history, or it probably wouldn't have gotten to that.
It starts to wear on you, man. I promise you, it starts to wear on you, especially, just like that situation right there. You want to be classy. Tim Corbin He's always been that way. He's a classy guy. That's what Coach Thompson taught me in high school. Let's be classy. But sometimes you just have enough, man. You just, like you said, George, you're human. We're all human, and we get annoyed and we get tired of the same stuff. And just like I agree with Tim Corbin, like you had two baseball teams out there fighting the other day, and one of them made more plays than the other one, and we lost. So I'm not going to worry about Louisville. I'm worried about Wright State, which you should have been worried about Wright State because they were pretty good and they ended up winning the game. But like when you get popped with those questions all the time, at some point your human side is going to come out and say, I've had enough, man. I'm done. I don't want to hear you anymore. Can you stop talking?
The worst job would be being the beat writer of a baseball team that sucks. A major league team, because you're doing that 100
the White Sox.
Oh my God. Now, I think most newspapers get maybe 2 or 3 different people, one major beat writer, and then 1 or 2 that come in every once in a while. I'll leave it like this, and you all can, let me know what you think. At some point in the next week to 10 days, Not that it is my job to tell the Tennessean how to operate, but somebody at the Tennessean needs to be a leader and get her and Corbin in a room. And whatever in the hell has gone on in the past that has caused what we all saw Saturday night, those two have got to get it out on the table and fix it. Because in the end, neither one benefits from it. Is that fair?
That's fair. Yeah.
Good point.
Okay. We'll go to the break on that, and then we'll open up a quick batch of phone calls. If you're out there and you are a red-blooded American, whatever that means, 615-553-0933. Again, 615-553-0933. Billy, how else can they reach us?
Chat room is open. We got a bunch so far, but we need a few more. Get some questions in here. It's to the right of the YouTube screen. If you're watching there, you can swipe up on Twitter and Facebook and fire away your questions as well. We'd love to hear from you.
We're back after this on 94.9 The Fan.
When I got my first car, my dad told me, keep the gas tank full and my number on speed dial. Now parents are telling their kids, save 615-242-9000 just in case. I'm Blair Durham. If you or someone you love is in a wreck, call us. We're here to get you the money you deserve.
This is my buddy Stan Harrison from Apple Collision Centers. Recently, you've been talking to me about companies that have a fleet of trucks and they're always in need of repairs.
That's right, George. We understand that nobody likes to deal with the auto body repair process. We try to simplify that at our 3 convenient locations. We work with all major insurance companies. We help to ease the stress of the auto body repair process. We're located in Old Hickory, Hendersonville, and Gallatin. If you need our services, please stop by and see us.
And how convenient that we have that in the background. Now, seriously, these are good folks. They do really good work. Give them a holler. Attention sports fans, the George Plaster Show will broadcast live this Friday from the grand opening of X Golf at 209 South Royal Oaks in Franklin. If you love golf in any form or fashion, this is where you need to be. Experience the future of golf through the world's most accurate simulator. See you in Franklin on Friday. Venture Express has been helping people in this area for more than 40 years. They're headquartered in Murfreesboro with over 30 years of dedicated fleets involving production, manufacturing, and corrugated experiences. They're an asset-based company with over 700 tractors, 4,000 trailers, and 800 drivers. If you need their help, dial them up 615-793-9500 or log on to ventureexpress.com.
Nashville Sports Network.
It's the George Plaster Show.
Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan.
North Carolina sure looks like they're going to advance. They're up 10-3 on Oklahoma in the top of the 8th inning in Chapel Hill. Tennessee will take on Wake Forest in about 15-20 minutes in Knoxville in what has turned into a do-or-die game. Let's go to the phones. Eric on line 1, thank you for waiting.
Hey, George, it's been a while since the last time I talked to you. George, you know, it's interesting that you never thought, and I never thought we'd see the day that baseball and the SEC would kind of overtake the fact that you had 2 other big-time things going on this past weekend that kind of has not really gotten talked a lot about. The Yankees-Dodgers, which played at Dodgers Stadium this weekend, as well as the fact the NBA Finals, of course, is coming up. Everybody, of course, talking about the SEC stuff, which, and in fact, that's what I call to talk about. But I can just kind of think that's interesting.
Yeah, it is. I mean,
yeah.
I found myself yesterday after I went to the Vandy game. When I got home at 5 o'clock, I watched 2.5 hours of some of the most intense stuff. Ole Miss, Georgia Tech. Man, you talk about two teams that put it on the line. Wow. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, and of course the women's Texas, of course, in finals beating UT today, and now Oklahoma, if they're going to get back and defend the championship, has to win 2 games tonight. They're playing a doubleheader, so so they have to win both games against Texas Tech, and if they, of course, match against Texas again, they'd have to win. Whoever's the first team to win 2 will win it, and which means they could play each other in this thing 4 times. But we'll see. But the main thing I want to call talking to George about Vanderbilt, just want to get your guys' thoughts on this. I've heard a couple of rumblings and stuff where some people are saying, and I don't know, you may agree or disagree with this, the fact that one of the things that kind of benefited Vanderbilt, of course, in football was the NIL and transfer portal, which turned them into the what they were this past year, Diego Pavi's situation, where they were able to beat Alabama and have the success they did. And some think that this has now kind of hurt them, even though Tim Corbin has done a fantastic job of recruiting and getting guys in here. But some would think that kind of the NIL and transfer portal has kind of hurt them from that aspect. I don't know if that's true or not. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that, even though I've heard that next year they've got a great recruiting class, considered top 5, and I've even heard, not much, but I've even heard a little bit. Some of people think that maybe it might be time for Tim Corbin to step down, which I don't buy. He's got, if he wants to, can leave whenever he wants to. But it's just going to be interesting to see going forward about this program, because the things that have early in the season kind of cropped up again where their hitting didn't come through in the clutch situations when it needed to. So just want to get you guys' thoughts on that. Guys, it's always good to talk to you guys. Y'all take care and we'll talk to you.
I'll admit I walked out of yesterday kind of saying, okay, exactly what level of good were they? It's easy to say, well, they were not number 1 team in the country good.
They were a top 15 team in the country. I would say that. Look, they deserved the number 1 overall seed. And you can argue they should have gotten the 2nd or 3rd overall with Texas, LSU, Arkansas there. But I mean, they won 8 straight games to close the season.
Yeah, they closed on a rush. By the way, what SEC's had 7 eliminated already?
Yeah, I think that's the number.
Yeah.
Like Georgia hosted, they're out. Florida went to Conway and lost. Arkansas survived. LSU is in an elimination game tonight.
Go to the take real quickly on the text line about the I'm a female.
From somebody on YouTube, I'm a female and I don't like hearing a female reporter ask questions. I love sports, but I like to hear the guys speak about guys' ability. I'm a spectator because I've never played at that level.
To me, that's unfair.
Yeah,
there are a lot of women in sports who have fought through more adversity than the guys have and gone on to great careers. I just don't think that's fair.
Yeah, that's tough, and I want to say this, George. I can remember Bruce talking about Bear Bryant, and I remember watching something on one of these ESPN classics where there was he never thought that women should be on the sideline, which I agree with you. I think they've done a good job, and they've had to fight for everything they've gotten. But like, he was so nasty to her. Like, it was it made me feel, and this was 40 years ago, it made me feel so embarrassed and like secondhand embarrassment for that situation, because you could tell he did not want to answer a question from her, and he was short, and it was nasty, man. So from what they've come from that day to now, I love it.
And went back to Corbin on Eric's question in his comment about the retirement. Corbin did mention how he felt like he didn't equip them for the moment yesterday. And that's rare for Corbin to say that. He owned up to a lot and admitted a lot yesterday. Any Vandy fans that haven't listened to his press conference yesterday?
And I'll admit I haven't.
Go back and listen to it. He's very honest. He's pretty blunt. It's a good, it's a good way for him to express what happened, and he was very honest. So
being a great coach, that's what you got to do, Billy. You got to take the blame.
Yeah,
I mean, when your team wins, you show that, hey, you love them and you didn't do anything, but when they lose, you got to take the blame, and that kind of gets the blame off the team. But we all know where it ends.
You and I have not done that. If it goes bad, we turn to the left corner of the screen.
It's straight Billy.
To the reporter, why did you take that shot?
Yeah, I would be getting. If we had
imagine?
We had a beat writer. What happened with the gremlins in the mixer today, Billy? I don't freaking know.
Tony in Nolensville, you're next. Welcome.
Hello, George, and I'm actually calling you from Virginia, just outside of Roanoke.
Nice, beautiful area.
Nice,
beautiful. Yeah, come up here actually yesterday. Well, 2 days ago on Saturday, and it's on a family trip, family vacation thing. So, but guys, talking about Area Garson, I think it's what you say her name. I'm probably butchering it, but George, you are correct. They do have a history with each other. It goes back at least to last year. I've seen 2 or 3 interviews last year after some games, and maybe even further back than that, maybe a year and a half ago. But they do have some history. He has been extremely short, choppy, very direct, sometimes sarcastic answers to her questions. And so I'm not sure what started it back when it did, but it's been going on for some time. So I will say that much of it. As far as Vanderbilt goes, and Billy, I have seen his press conference from. Actually, I've read it, all of it. I didn't see the video of it, but he did take blame on some of the things that he, as he put, I did not equip them for, and maybe I should have done some things differently. And guys all over the chat rooms, and I'll just be honest with you, George, we talked about it earlier here, and you don't question. Well, Corbs is human. He's a head coach of a team I follow, and he is a GOAT. He should retire when he's ready to retire. He's earned that. But at the same time, you get caught up in some of your emotions, and there's a lot of talk why we didn't juggle the lineup a little bit. Why was an 0-for-12 hitter still in the lineup through the weekend? Or if he's in the lineup, maybe put him down in the lower part of the lineup. Mancini yesterday was having a hell of a weekend, but he was batting in the lower part. Maybe move him up. We had 2 or 3 that were batting. Vastine did not, and I'm calling the names out because they get paid. Vastine was 0-for-12, but he was getting on base some. But you get some guys up there, and R.J. Austin just did not produce. Everybody's talked about it. And he was in a number 2 slot, stayed there, and he wasn't advancing runners in front of him. He wasn't protecting the number 3 hitter by taking some pitches off of him. And Saturday he didn't even get a ball out of the infield. And Corbin, a lot of people were talking, why didn't we maybe pinch hit for him and try something different right there then? He swung at the very first pitch and flied out. He didn't even give himself a chance to look at 1 or 2. So, I mean, that's some things that really has disturbed a lot of people. I'm calling. I'll say it on the airwaves. I'm not scared. I'm a big boy. And but that's some of the stuff that I wanted to touch on. Go ahead.
Tony, I got about 30 seconds, and I hate doing it that way. But that's not all I got.
The stuff I touched on. And as far as the team, I think they still won the SEC championship. They got hot when they needed to. Might have peaked too soon. Might have peaked. But if we got some championship, it's going to be fun to see who he replaces the people with and who enters the portal. So I'll let y'all talk on some of that, guys. I know it's a lot. Thank you, George.
Thank you. I'm sorry we don't have more time. To a caller that was on the line, give us a holler tomorrow. I apologize. I try to get to as many of you as I can. We'll go to the break. When we come back, Plaster Bet of the Day is next on 94.9 The Fan.
Can't watch the race? We got you.
I can't believe it!
NASCAR lives on the Game Nashville Sports Network. Whether it's 102.5 The Game, 94.9 The Fan, or Sports Talk 830, you can hear it all. Just check thegamenashville.com for the full schedule. NASCAR lives here. Your sports live here on the Game Nashville Sports Network.
Nashville, the semifinals of the PFL World Tournament begin Thursday, June 12th. Former welterweight world champion Jason Jackson takes on rising star the Silverback Thad Jean. Plus 2023 PFL World Champ Jesus Pinedo and Gabriel Braga collide in a highly anticipated trilogy match. Don't miss your chance to see the action live June 12th at Municipal Auditorium in Nashville. Visit pflmma.com/schedule for more info.
It's the George Plaster Show.
Your sports live here on 94.9 The Fan.
Final segment on a Monday. North Carolina looks like they're going to close it out against Oklahoma. They're up 11-3 in the top of the 8th. Looks like they'll move on to host a super regional. All kinds of action tonight. Tennessee and Wake Forest. Game 7 of that regional tonight here. What is that? Just a few minutes? That's at 5, right?
Yep.
5 Central. So get ready for that. Ole Miss, Murray State at 5 o'clock. Game 7 of that one down in Oxford. Southern Miss and Miami. That one's in Hattiesburg. 8 o'clock tonight. LSU hosts Little Rock of all teams.
Yeah.
Tonight at 8 o'clock.
Out of the OVC.
Yeah. Could you imagine they win tonight?
Oh, my goodness.
Anyway.
They'll burn down Tiger Stadium.
Yeah. Bet of the Day brought to you by Bart Durham Injury Law. We check out what happened over the weekend. Just a couple of bets to review. The Pacers, of course, advanced to the finals. They covered. This was Friday, right?
Looks like we're getting real close to 500.
Yeah. Creeping up.
So, Billy and Kelly, there's been a little talk from the Peanut Gallery that I did not have a college World Series, a college NCAA baseball tournament game tonight. So there will be a late addition to the roster. First, let's go with what we gave Billy earlier in the day. I'm going with the Dodgers in a battle of division leaders at home against the Mets. That's not the most gutsy play, but it is a big number at 160, whatever it is, 163. So here's where I am going to go. I'm taking Southern Miss tonight at home in a big game, winner take all against the University of Miami. Southern Miss has had a very good season. Had Vanderbilt won their regional, Southern Miss, if they won tonight, would be coming here. Obviously, that's not going to happen. So all the incentive is for them. They've got the home field if they win. That is a strong incentive. Southern Miss tonight cooks.
All right. We'll see. Are you just going to keep this going? Like, are we going to finish it, or are you just trying to get back to 500? Is that what we're doing?
You're going to get back to 500 and then end it.
Well, don't we end it around the All-Star game?
Yeah, I think that's when we did.
Isn't that about?
Yeah.
Trust me, though. Kelly, as the champion that I am going to come strong at the end.
You are, huh? You'll
Yeah.
be like Tom Brady in the fourth, huh? You're going to finish it.
Nah, something like that.
Okay.
Maybe,
Whatever.
maybe not. See you tomorrow, Kelly. Nice attitude.
See y'all.
Billy, good luck on your car.
Appreciate it.
Yes. We're out of here, but this is 94.9 The Fan.